He packed her bags while she was sleeping. Not while she was out. Not while they were arguing. While she was lying right beside him in their bed, breathing, trusting, completely unaware that the man whose back was touching hers was quietly folding her dresses into a suitcase and deciding that she was no longer worth keeping. Stop whatever you are doing right now, because this story is going to rearrange something inside you. Subscribe to this channel immediately and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from, because we want to see how far this story travels. Now, let us go. Amma was married to Kojo for 5 years. 5 years of waking up before sunrise to make sure his shirt was ironed, his food was hot, his shoes were polished, and his world was perfectly ordered. 5 years of being the kind of wife other women pointed at from across the room and said, "See how she loves that man." 5 years of believing that if she just loved him hard enough, long enough, quietly enough, he would eventually love her back the way he used to. That morning, she was standing at the stove in their apartment in Accra, stirring a pot, when she heard his footsteps stop behind her. She did not turn around immediately. She had learned to read his footsteps the way sailors read weather. The way they stopped told her everything she needed to know before he opened his mouth. Amma. She turned slowly. Kojo was fully dressed. Shirt pressed without a single crease. Tie straight. Shoes polished so well they caught the kitchen light and threw it back. He looked at her the way a landlord looks at a property he has already decided to sell. His eyes moved from her face downward. Her shoulders. Her stomach. Her hips. Then back up to her face. Then he exhaled. Long. Deliberate. Loaded with everything he thought of her. "I have been patient," he said. Her fingers tightened around the wooden spoon. "Kojo, what is this?" His voice was soft. That was the thing about Kojo. He was never loudest when he was most dangerous. Loud voices, she had learned to stand against. His soft voice went straight through every defense she had. "Look at yourself," he said. Amma placed the spoon carefully on the counter. She had made herself a promise at 4 o'clock that morning while lying awake beside him, listening to him sleep without any difficulty at all. She had lain there in the darkness and made herself one specific promise. No crying this morning, Amma. No begging. No making yourself small so he feels big. She had repeated it quietly until it felt solid. "My body went through 2 losses," she said. Her voice was steady, and she was genuinely proud of how steady it was. "You were there for both of them. You held my hand in that hospital room. You heard what the doctor said about the medication." "I was there," Kojo agreed. Then he adjusted his cuff. "But the doctor also said the side effects could be managed with discipline. You chose not to manage them." She stared at him. "I chose not to manage them? You chose food instead." Something in the kitchen changed temperature. The air shifted. "Say that again," she said very quietly. Kojo straightened his tie in the reflection of the kitchen window. "My colleagues ask me questions, Amma. People who knew you before see you now and ask me questions. Do you understand what that does to a man? Do you understand," she said, and now her voice was shaking despite everything she had promised herself, "what it does to a woman to lose 2 pregnancies and have her husband respond by being embarrassed?" He turned to face her fully. "This is not about the pregnancies anymore." "Then what is it about?" "It is about respect." He looked directly at her. "It is about looking like someone's wife. It is about me walking into a room with you and not seeing pity in people's eyes." He paused. "You have let yourself go completely, and you are acting like I am the problem for noticing." The word embarrassed had landed in her chest moments ago and was still sitting there like something thrown hard. Please tell us right now where you are watching from. Drop it in the comments. We would like to hear from you. And please subscribe, because what happens next in this kitchen will make your blood run cold. What Amma was only about to discover was that while she had been standing at that stove, stirring that pot, and repeating her 4 o'clock promise to herself, the suitcase had already been packed. Kojo had done it the previous night after she fell asleep. He had climbed quietly out of bed, gone to the bottom of the wardrobe, and filled the small gray suitcase with her clothes. Her church wrappers. Her mother's jewelry box. The small framed photograph from their first year together, when he used to rest his chin on top of her head and call her his pride in front of anyone who would listen. He had packed her entire life into a bag while she slept beside him. And she had felt nothing. Not one shift in the mattress had been wrong enough to wake her. Not one sound had been sharp enough. She had slept peacefully through her own removal. When Kojo walked back into the kitchen dragging the suitcase behind him, Amma did not understand what she was seeing for a full 3 seconds. Her brain refused the image. "What is that?" she asked. "You know what it is. Kojo." Her voice broke on his name. "I cannot continue like this." He said it with the calm practicality of someone closing a business account. "Come back when you have sorted yourself out. When you look the way a wife should look. When I can walk into a room with you without people talking." He placed the suitcase by the front door. "I am not ending the marriage. I am giving you a condition." She looked at the suitcase. Then at him. Then at the wedding photo on the wall above the dining table. The photo from the day he had held her face in both hands at the altar and told their families that she was the finest thing God had ever made, and he did not deserve her, but he was going to spend his life trying to. "A condition," she repeated. "Yes. You are giving your wife a condition like she is a contract negotiation?" Kojo opened the front door and held it open. He did not speak again. He did not need to. Everything was already said. Amma understood then that this was not a conversation anymore. It had stopped being a conversation the night before when he went to the wardrobe in the dark. Everything this morning was only the delivery of a decision already made. She walked through the door. It slammed behind her. She stood in the corridor with her 2 bags. A neighbor's door was cracked open. Eyes watched through the gap. Someone's television played behind a closed door. The corridor fluorescent light hummed above her head. Her whole body felt hollowed out and filled with something cold. She sat on the floor beside her suitcase. Not for drama. Her legs had simply run out of reasons to hold her up. She sat there for a long time. Then slowly, with the quiet determination of a woman who absolutely refuses to let a corridor be the place her story ends, she stood up. She picked up both bags. And she walked toward the stairs. Outside was both better and worse. Better because Accra did not know. Worse because Accra did not care. The city was already in full motion. Trotro mates shouting destinations. Hawkers arranging their goods. Children in school uniforms running past gates. The whole enormous machinery of the city turning without pausing for one woman dragging 2 bags and a shattered heart down an East Legan street. Amma walked without direction. She had not called ESI yet. She knew she needed to call ESI. ESI was her person. Had been since secondary school. The kind of friend who answered calls at 3 in the morning without attitude and arrived at crisis locations with food and no unnecessary questions. But calling ESI meant saying the words out loud. And saying the words meant it was fully real. And for just a few more minutes, Amma needed it to stay only partially real. So she walked until the wheel of one suitcase caught on a raised crack in the road. The wheel snapped completely. At the same moment, the zipper gave way. And suddenly, everything she owned was scattered across the street between moving cars and impatient motorbike tires. Her dresses. Her wrappers. The small framed photograph from her traditional wedding ceremony. Her mother's jewelry box. Horns blasted. Someone shouted from inside a trotro. "Madam, move." Someone else laughed. A woman leaning from a bus window said something about her body that arrived like a physical strike. Amma dropped to her knees on the road and began gathering her things with shaking hands. Tears were already falling, and she was not even fully aware of them. She had cried so much since 4 o'clock that morning that her body had apparently decided to continue without asking permission. Then a car stopped. A dark SUV. It pulled to the side of the road and sat there with the engine running. Nobody came out immediately. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Simple white shirt. Dark trousers. He walked toward her without urgency. Without the performed energy of someone doing a public good deed. Without the expression of a man expecting to be noticed for his kindness. He bent down and picked up the photograph frame from the road first. He looked at it briefly. Then he held it toward her. Their eyes met. His eyes were calm. Not pitying. Not curious. Just completely present. The kind of eyes that do not need anything from you at all. "Is this yours?" he asked. "Yes." He bent down and began helping her gather the rest of her things without asking permission. He folded one of her wrappers carefully before placing it back into the broken suitcase. Amma watched him fold it. And something about that exact gesture broke something open inside her. The care of it. The respect of it. The fact that a stranger on an Accra road was handling her scattered clothes with more dignity than her husband had handled their marriage. She started crying properly now. From somewhere deep. The man did not offer empty words. He did not say it would be okay. He did not ask what happened. He simply kept folding and gathering until everything was back inside the broken suitcase. Then he stood. "My name is Kweku," he said. She wiped her face. "Amma." "Where are you going, Amma?" She had no answer. She had ESI's general direction and nothing beyond that. No plan. No destination. Just 2 bags, a broken wheel, a wedding photograph, and the emptiness of someone whose entire life had just been reorganized without her knowledge or consent. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. Kweku looked at the broken suitcase. Then at her. "Let me drive you." "I don't know you." "You don't," he agreed simply. "But that suitcase is finished, and you look like someone who has been through something serious today." He paused. "I am not asking for anything. Just tell me where you need to go." Every reasonable instinct said no. But her legs were exhausted. Her arms were aching. And sometimes in life, the reasonable choice and the necessary choice are not the same thing. She nodded. "Drop a comment right now. Tell me where you are watching this from. Has this story gripped you? Like this video right now so more people can find it, and keep watching because what happens next is the part that changes everything." Kweku drove her to ESI's house. He carried the broken suitcase upstairs without being asked. He greeted ESI with quiet courtesy, the kind that required no performance. Before he left, he set a card on the small table near the door. I am a rehabilitation therapist, he said. I work with bodies that have been through physical and emotional trauma. Amma stared at him silently. What your body has experienced, 2 pregnancy losses, hormonal treatment, sustained emotional damage, that is not weakness. His voice was firm, but gentle. That is injury. He nodded toward the card. If you ever want to work on healing it properly, call me. He did not wait for a response. He simply left. Amma stared at the card on the table. ESI closed the door. Then she turned and looked at Amma with the expression of a woman who needed every single detail and needed it now. Amma sat on the couch and told her everything. The suitcase he packed while she slept. The kitchen. The word embarrassed. The condition. The door. The road. All of it. Her voice fractured in 3 places, but she got through it. When she finished, ESI was silent for exactly 4 seconds. Then she stood and said in a very controlled voice, I need you to tell me where that man is right now. ESI. I am asking calmly. Where is he? Please sit down. ESI sat, but her jaw was working. He packed your bags the night before while you were sleeping beside him? Amma said nothing. What kind of coldness lives that quietly inside a person? Still, Amma said nothing. You are staying here, ESI said firmly. I do not want to hear anything about small space or landlord or inconvenience. I will sort the landlord. You are staying here, and that is the end of it. Amma nodded. Then she lay down on the couch, pulled her knees up, and closed her eyes. ESI covered her with a blanket and went into the kitchen. The sounds of cooking came through. The smell of something warm beginning. And for the first time since 4 o'clock that morning, Amma felt something that was not pain. Not happiness. Not yet. Just the small, merciful absence of being completely alone. She slept for 11 hours. On the 9th day, Kojo called. His name appeared on her screen, and her entire body reacted before her mind could prepare a response. Her hands shook. Her stomach dropped. Something in her chest lifted with a hope she immediately hated herself for. She answered. Amma. His voice was different. Softer. Carrying something that sounded almost like regret, or the closest thing to regret that a man like him could produce. I have been thinking, he said. She waited. I am willing to give you time. Silence. 6 months, he continued. Show me progress, and we can talk about you coming home. The word home moved through her like cold water. She sat with the phone pressed to her ear. 6 months. He was sitting in the apartment she had spent 5 years building into a home, offering her a 6-month timeline to earn her way back into it. He was offering her a deadline to become acceptable enough to return to her own life. Kojo, she said. Yes. No. Silence. What? No. Harder this time. Cleaner. Not 6 months. Not 6 years. No. He exhaled. She heard the specific sound of a man recalibrating. You are being emotional. She ended the call. Then she sat for 30 seconds with the phone in her lap. After that, she reached across the table and picked up Kweku's card. She stared at it. Then she typed a message. I am ready to start. His reply came in under 2 minutes. 6:30 tomorrow morning. The park near your friend's house. Amma put the phone down and looked out the window. The Accra evening was coming in orange and slow. A child was laughing somewhere outside. ESI was singing under her breath in the kitchen. Life was continuing with its ordinary, relentless insistence. Amma breathed in. Okay, she thought. Okay. The first morning was humbling in ways she had not prepared herself for. She arrived at the park at 6:25 wearing ESI's leggings and an oversized top. Kweku was already there, stretching near the pathway entrance. He looked up when he saw her and smiled. Not the smile of someone assessing what he saw. A genuine, uncomplicated smile. The smile of someone simply glad that a person showed up. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning." She looked at the pathway ahead. "What are we doing?" "Walking." She blinked. "That is all?" "That is all." The first 15 minutes were manageable. The next 15 were harder. By 30 minutes, her lungs were burning. Her legs were filing formal complaints. And her body, which had not been asked to do anything intentional in almost 2 years, was making its displeasure clearly known. "Can we stop?" she asked between breaths. Kweku walked beside her at exactly her pace. He had not moved ahead once. "We can slow down," he said. "We are not stopping. I genuinely cannot breathe properly." "You are breathing. Your body is just surprised." He looked at her with quiet confidence. "It forgot it could do this. What if I collapse?" "I am a rehabilitation therapist," he said. "I will catch you." She almost laughed. She had not almost laughed in 9 days. And that almost laugh felt like the first small piece of something being rebuilt. They finished the 40 minutes. Amma sat heavily on a park bench and dropped her face into both hands. "I hate this," she announced dramatically. Kweku sat beside her. "Tell me something you used to love doing before everything." She thought for a moment. "Dancing," she admitted quietly. "I used to dance in the kitchen while I cooked." "When did you stop?" She did not need long to find the answer. When he started watching. Kweku was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Dance in ESI's kitchen tonight. Nobody is watching there." Amma looked sideways at him. "That is your professional recommendation." "One part of it." That evening, she danced in ESI's kitchen. Badly at first. Self-consciously. Then less self-consciously. Then ESI walked in and joined her, and suddenly both of them were ridiculous and laughing and breathless, and it was the first time Amma had laughed with her entire body in longer than she could measure. Comment right now and tell me where you are watching from. Drop your city or your country in the comments, and subscribe if you have not, because the part you have been waiting for is very close. Weeks passed. Then months. Kweku taught her things that had nothing to do with how her body looked and everything to do with how her body felt. Breathing. Strength. How to eat in a way that nourished instead of punished. How to replace emotional eating with movement and rest and honest conversations at midnight with ESI when the hard thoughts came. But the most important work was not physical. The most important work happened one evening 3 months later. They were sitting on a park bench after their session when Kweku asked her a question nobody had ever asked her before. "What do you think of yourself?" Amma frowned slightly. "What?" "Not what ESI thinks of you. Not what other people think. What do you actually think about yourself?" She opened her mouth. Then closed it. "Take your time," he said gently. Amma sat with the question for almost a full minute. Then finally she said quietly, "I think I am someone who loves other people more than she loves herself." Kweku nodded slowly. "Is that a good quality?" "I used to think so. And now." Amma looked toward the trees at the edge of the park, evening light moving through the leaves. Now I think it is only a good quality if the person you love most is also you. Kweku looked at her. Something in his expression shifted slightly. He looked at her the way someone looks at a sentence they desperately wish they had written themselves. "Say that again," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "No. You heard it." He laughed. Then she laughed too. And something between them that had been building quietly for months became undeniable to both of them at the exact same moment. Neither of them named it that evening. But it had already been named. 6 weeks later, Kweku walked her to ESI's gate after their session, as he often did now. They stood together in the early evening light. Kweku looked at her for a moment. "Can I tell you something?" "Yes. The first morning I saw you on that road gathering your clothes from the ground." He paused. "I thought, this person is in pain." Amma stayed quiet. But what I thought immediately after was. His eyes held hers steadily. "This person is still moving." Amma swallowed hard. Most people in that situation sit down and wait to be rescued. He shook his head slightly. "You were already trying to fix it yourself." She looked away briefly. Then back at him. "I thought you should know that," he said quietly. "That is who you were even at your worst moment." The evening light softened everything around them. He was close now. Close enough that when she whispered, "Thank you," it barely needed to travel. Kweku leaned forward slowly and kissed her forehead. Gentle. Deliberate. The way you touch something you refuse to damage. Amma closed her eyes. When she opened them again, he was still looking at her steadily. "Too much?" he asked quietly. She shook her head immediately. "No." He smiled softly. "Good night, Amma." "Good night, Kweku." She walked inside. ESI was sitting on the couch eating groundnuts while watching television. She looked up at Amma's face. Then slowly lowered the bowl. "What happened?" "Nothing happened. Your face is contradicting you completely." Amma sat down without speaking. But she was smiling in a way her face had forgotten how to do for a very long time. ESI stared at her. Then she grabbed her bowl again and muttered. "I knew it." Amma laughed softly. "Knew what?" "From the day he folded that wrapper on the road, I knew it." 8 months after she left with 2 bags and a broken wheel, Kweku asked her to dinner. Not as a coach. As a man who had spent 8 months watching someone rebuild herself from the foundation upward and had very specific feelings about what he had witnessed. ESI dressed Amma with the seriousness of someone preparing a bride. She circled her 3 times. Adjusted the dress. Checked the earrings. Then stepped back and went completely quiet. "Amma." "What?" "Look." Amma turned toward the mirror. And froze. She was not thinner than she had been on her wedding day to Kojo. She was not the size she had been the morning he packed her bags. She was simply herself. But now she stood differently. Her shoulders were back without effort. Her chin was level. Her eyes were direct and clear and no longer apologizing for existing. She was not making herself smaller for anyone's comfort anymore. She was taking up exactly the amount of space she deserved to take up. ESI placed a hand softly on her shoulder. "That woman was always there," she said quietly. "He just made you forget her for a while." The restaurant was elegant and candlelit, overlooking the city lights of Accra. Kweku stood the moment Amma walked in. The gesture felt natural. Unrehearsed. He looked at her for one full second before saying anything. Then finally, "You look breathtaking." Amma smiled. "You say that every time." "Because it is accurate every time." They were mid-conversation, mid-laughter, midway into something that felt dangerously close to happiness, when Amma heard a voice behind her. She recognized it before she even turned around. Kojo. He was sitting at a table 3 meters away. Beside him sat a much younger woman. Small-framed. Beautiful. Wearing the confident expression of someone who did not yet understand what it would cost her to be chosen by this particular man. Kojo and Amma looked at each other at the exact same moment. His face moved through shock. Then confusion. Then something unmistakable. Regret. The kind that arrives too late to be useful. He stood and walked toward her table slowly. "Amma." His voice sounded stripped raw. The coldness was gone now. Something desperate had taken its place. "You look." He stopped. Then tried again. "You look different." Amma held his gaze calmly. "I am different." "I am different," Amma said. Kojo stared at her like he was trying to understand how the woman he discarded on a roadside in Accra was now standing in front of him glowing with a kind of peace he no longer recognized. The younger woman beside him looked between them. "Kojo, who is this?" He did not answer her immediately. His eyes remained locked on Amma. "I made a mistake," he said finally. Plainly. Directly. No excuses this time. No soft cruelty disguised as logic. Just truth arriving late. Amma looked at him calmly. The restaurant had gone quiet in the specific way public places do when people are pretending not to listen while hearing absolutely everything. Kojo stepped closer. "I know I made a mistake." The younger woman frowned. "You told me you were separated." Still he did not look at her. His attention remained entirely on Amma. "Come home," he said quietly. Then softer. "Please." Amma almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because 8 months earlier she would have collapsed hearing those words. Now they landed against her like rain against glass. Kweku remained seated across the table. He did not interrupt. Did not posture. Did not attempt to defend her. He simply watched Amma with the settled calm of a man who already knew exactly who she was. Amma stood slowly. She looked directly at Kojo. "You packed my bags while I was sleeping." Her voice was quiet. And it did not shake once. "You prepared my removal the night before while I lay beside you trusting you." Kojo lowered his eyes briefly. "You gave me a condition like I was a contract negotiation." The younger woman looked confused now. Amma continued. "You told me to come back when I looked like a woman." A pause. Then she stepped slightly closer. "I was a woman that morning in the corridor with my suitcases." Her voice sharpened softly. "I was a woman on that road in traffic gathering my life from the ground. I was a woman in my best friend's apartment at 2 in the morning crying into borrowed blankets." The restaurant remained completely silent. Amma held his gaze steadily. "I did not need to change anything about myself to become worthy, Kojo." Her eyes were clear now. "I only needed to leave you." Something inside the room shifted. The nearest table started clapping first. Then another. Then another. Until applause moved through the restaurant like something people had been holding inside themselves waiting for permission to release. The younger woman picked up her purse slowly. She looked at Kojo with disgust now. You said you were not married. Kojo finally looked at her. But she was already walking away. He stood there frozen. Alone. His mouth opened slightly. Then closed again. Because for the first time in his life, he had discovered there are some mistakes confidence cannot rescue. Amma did not watch him return to his table. She had already turned back toward the table where Kweku sat smiling at her quietly with the full pride of a man who had never once doubted what she was becoming. "Are you okay?" he asked. Amma sat down slowly. Then picked up her glass. And smiled. "Yes," she said. "I really am." She filed for divorce the next morning. Barrister Mensa handled everything efficiently. The messages. The medical records. The neighbor statements. Documentation of the treatments that caused the hormonal changes. Kojo did not contest any of it. He sat in the courtroom with the posture of a man who had arrived already knowing the verdict. The divorce was granted. Outside the courthouse, ESI screamed loudly enough that security guards turned to stare. Kweku stood to the side laughing quietly. Amma looked up toward the across sky and exhaled slowly. Completely. For the first time in years, breathing felt uncomplicated. 4 months later, Kweku brought her back to the same park where they first walked together. Early morning sunlight stretched softly through the trees. Amma frowned slightly. "Why are we here so early?" Kweku smiled nervously. And that immediately caught her attention because Kweku almost never looked nervous. Then suddenly, he stopped walking. And went down on one knee. Amma froze. He held the ring box open carefully and looked up at her with eyes already full before he even spoke. "I am not asking because of what you became," he said quietly. His voice stayed steady, but emotion pressed against every word. "I am asking because of who you were even at your worst moment." Amma's eyes filled instantly. Kweku smiled faintly through his own emotion. "On a road. On your knees. Still trying." A tear slipped down Amma's face. "Yes," she whispered immediately. Then stronger. "Yes." Kweku stood and placed the ring on her finger. Then he kissed her. Not on the forehead this time. Fully. The kind of kiss that comes from certainty. From gratitude. From finally recognizing the difference between loving someone and valuing them. Somewhere behind the trees, ESI burst into tears. She had followed them secretly because she suspected something and absolutely refused to miss it. At the wedding months later, Amma stood alone in front of a mirror before walking out. Her dress was elegant. Her makeup soft and simple. But none of those things were what made her beautiful. She looked at her reflection carefully. Then smiled. Not the practiced smile she used to wear while pretending to be fine for a man who never deserved the performance. The real one. The smile that arrived naturally now. Without permission. Without fear. Without apology. The woman Kojo packed into a suitcase in the dark had become a woman who packed her own life exactly the way she wanted it. And walked into it with both hands open. Subscribe if this story moved you. Drop a like so this video reaches someone who needs it today. And remember this. The people who humiliate you at your lowest moment often believe that moment defines you forever. But sometimes your lowest moment is only the place where your real life finally begins.